Frank, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm fine. Slowly preparing for anything watches and wonders and everything that's around, but
oh yes,
a hectic day.
Yes, it's feeling like we're going back in time in a way. We're preparing for things that used to be the normality, and all of a sudden have become exceptional events.
Absolutely. It's kind of a weird feeling, but good.
Totally. So Frank, you are one of those faces and one of those human beings that I've been admiring across my journey. So I was saying we probably met, but never properly met, and our connection comes through a common friend, Xavier Markel, who is a contributor to Monochrome Watches as well. And yeah, finally here you are, and I wanted to share with you some thoughts of what is happening. What is the world of watchmaking today compared to how we left it 2 years ago, when when things started to go slightly wrong in a way. Are you surprised, like I am at the moment, with how things have panned out? And I'm asking this question, Frank, because I feel like we are seen as ambassadors of the independence, for example, and we started in 2014. You famously already in 2006, 2007 were a big voice for the independence. So are you surprised with how things are at the moment?
It went slower and faster at the same time than I expected, to be honest. In general, I had expected that independence would have become more popular faster, but actually the pandemic was the catalysator that was necessary to get things properly going, and to a degree that is completely surprising, to be honest. And the speed with that it went with the development was bizarre, very pleasantly bizarre, I would say, but still, yeah.
Absolutely. And so I found that we have common ground in a way, because I find myself now promoting the independence, because deep inside I'm a guitar player, like I think you are as well.
Yes.
I've always tried to be alternative to the conformist, normality, and naturally I get attracted by whatever is kind of different in the world where I project myself. Was it a similar path to you? Now I know that monochrome covers a big spectrum, the whole of the spectrum of watchmaking, but I know that deep inside you were one of the first voices for the independence.
Well, let me tell you this. I remember my first time Basel World, and the first meeting was set up by an American friend through the American markets. And it was thus with American representatives of brands. My first meeting was with Blancpain. So I arrived there together with Robert Jan from Fratello, and it is, "Hey there, welcome at Blancpain." And we are like, Blancpain? Wasn't it Blancpain? And the guy in half an hour tosses one watch after another, pats on the table and says, "You like it, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, wait, we want to take pictures, And the guy's like taking the watch again. The next one, "Hey, this is this one. Hey, you like it, right?" So we had half an hour like that. Robert Jan and I looked at one another like, what the flying F, we're not going to survive another few meetings of this. So as good boys, we went to the next meeting. It was, "Hey there, welcome at Jack and Ross." So by that time I knew I had enough, but at least we waited until we had the half-hour meeting, which went much more pleasantly, by the way, but still was not necessarily what we were looking for. So a bit disillusioned, we wandered towards what later became the Palace, the tent outside of Basel World, and there I met with Max Busser, with the guys of Urwerk, with Dewitt, all the indie stuff we still like and love and cover and see frequently, and that was like a proper welcome. So everyone said, "Come and sit, and you want to have a look at the watches, want to have a cup of coffee," and it felt so welcoming and so like you were talking with another normal human being, you know, and that was completely missing in the other meetings. So at that time, there was the Indies were winning in my head, at least, big time. That was it was a bizarre experience. Luckily, I already knew Stefan Sapaneva. I knew the Grönevelds, Kees Engelbarts, Kari Voutilainen, Peter Speak. So we were all already familiar with one another, and actually the entire Basel World Fair, I spent most of my time with these guys. Just spending my time there, you know, enjoying, learning from them about their challenges as small independent watch brands to get enough supply from different sources, but also to find clients, to reach out, to get coverage in media, etc. So they had enough challenges, and there were a few challenges that I could help with. Communication. So that's what I did. I loved what they were doing. Price range was, well, totally out of my price range, but I loved what they were doing, and I totally understood why they were doing what they did.
Yeah.
So it was there was a good mix.
And it's very interesting because when we started 2014, I had the idea to try to use an online retailing platform to help them also, you know, to help the independents to get a curated way of actually monetizing and you know, and selling in the end through the promotion, as you said. But the paradox that has been as you know, is apparent at the moment is that, for example, the names that you've just mentioned, now not only they don't need any promotion, but in order for you to be the lucky, you know, owner of any of the new releases, you really have to go big distances. So how do you live that? I know it's a complex subject, but we are in a place at the moment where, yes, obviously everyone knows the independents are the principal ambassadors of this human touch that comes with watchmaking. But at the same time, it's gone a little bit out of control, hasn't it? Where you were mentioning Grönefeld, Voutilainen, Sapaneva, MBNF. I mean, try to get one of the pieces from any of these brands.
Yeah, nowadays it's probably quite impossible, and they've grown to become as desirable as at least with similar waiting lists. Let me put it that way. As for instance, AP or Patek for the Nautilus, or Rolex for anything steel luxury sports watch. So, yeah, they're doing well. I'm happy for them, by the way.
Absolutely. It just is. It has to be said that for those that are discovering independent watchmaking now, there is a so-called first wave of independent watchmakers that already, in a way, belongs to the past. If you're looking at, you know, acquiring any of those. So, is it where I see the limited edition, and do you see Monochrome very instrumental in digging, in scouting, in finding new names, the names of the independent watchmaking to come, as very crucial these days?
We're definitely on top of that, but I must say that Instagram is a very good help in that. But we are also, you know, there's also some young watchmakers who reach out to us to show their school project and ask if we can write about it. And when we think it's cool, or technically they really achieved something or in finishing, then we will cover that. So if you're a follower of Monochrome, you can definitely find some guys with one article on the web on Monochrome and nowhere else. Yeah. Absolutely. So but it's, you know, for us it's a shared passion of watchmaking and horology and anything history of watchmaking related to that. So that's all. You know, when there's a young guy saying, "Hey, I made a very nice watch," we always have a look. You know, it's important to welcome them to the show and to see if we can do something for them, and or if they can find clients, etc.
So if I am a collector today getting into independent watchmaking, what would you recommend when, of course, the grail in the mind of everyone are the ones that you just mentioned, for example. But we know that realistically, you know, chances to be able to get into that game are very, very shallow. What would you do if you were imagining, Frank, yourself getting into independence today and not 15 years ago, when you had the chance and the courage to be able to do?
Well, even suppose even 15 years ago, I mean, I wanted to buy a Speak Marine, but Speak Marine was 7,500. At that point, I didn't have the money to buy that. I was looking at a Sapaneva, and I didn't have the money to buy it. So I started to consider an SUF, Sapaneva Uhrenfabrik. Design, you know, it was just not the thing I was looking for. So, you know, you just go around and around and around, but you know what you want, and you don't have the money for it. So in the end, what I did is I bought watches that were relatively affordable for what they were, and sometimes on forums or well, not eBay, but mainly forums. I sometimes found something that was offered for well below the market value. I snapped it up, I resold it with a little bit of a profit, and that's the way how I flipped myself to be able to buy my first Sapaneva, and later Speak Marine, and later Hautlence, etc. But nowadays, with Stepan Sapaneva also has a waiting list of quite a long time. You know, it's nearly impossible. So now I think it's either trying to flip your way up and to let your money, your hobby also make a little bit of money for you, or it is trying to find the new one who has not been discovered by everyone. But that's tough.
Absolutely, because it's like a bit like you are into rock music like I am. When you find your absolute favorite band and you cultivate it as a gem, as a secret that no one else knows, then that's the best pleasure for people like us. And in watchmaking, it happens a little bit the same, because you can't help sharing it, and then after a while it becomes too big, because ultimately, we shouldn't forget that artisanal watchmaking is ultimately not scalable, basically, you know, if we're talking about pure, genuine artisanal watchmaking, no?
Exactly, it is. Gosh, now you mentioned the rock music. I can remember, I'm an old fart to start with. I can remember when I heard Nirvana for the first time on the radio. I mean, I had Bleach, that was the first record. I had it illegal import into the Netherlands, and we were playing that, and all of a sudden I heard Nevermind, at least the first tunes of Nevermind on the radio, and I was like, what? This sounds like, no, that's impossible, but it sounds like, and fuck, it was Nirvana live on the most popular radio station in the Netherlands. And I was like, you know, on one hand, happy for the guys that they, you know, they made it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I felt really sad because everyone was now listening to that cool band that I really liked, actually. And
absolutely.
So it came out of the niche corner where it was into the limelight of the big public.
I mean,
and that's also what you more or less see nowadays with many of the indies. Times when you could pick up an old Daniel Roth for 1,000 or 2,000 euros. Those days are over, because nowadays, since we had a lockdown, old Daniel Roth pieces are going for bizarre prices.
Yeah.
However, also fully justified prices, and that's something that I really think that also should be said.
Absolutely.
Because it's not anymore to pick up the bargain, but it's many of the watches that you could pick up as a bargain a few years ago are now going for what I think are pretty realistic prices.
Absolutely. No, it's so interesting, and we got to the point where I mean, things have changed so much that now we are getting busy also with the digital side. watchmaking copyright with the NFT technology and all that comes with the metaverse and all of that. What's your standpoint? I was reading the latest article from our friend King Flum, really Fahim, very good article on his blog. Yeah, there is a world there. What is your standpoint? And I'll be able to share mine in case one day as well.
I think my standpoint is pretty simple in this. The thing I really genuinely admire and love with watches is how long time ago people with limited means were studying the stars and trying to decide on something like time making and timekeeping, and how that evolved into something that has become sociology in our society actually has become something super important and also very meaningful and even sort of decisive in how we interact with one another, and how that ends with something that looks as good as this. You know, that is to me what triggers everything. And when I see a watch with a battery in it, doesn't do anything. NFT, sorry, it's not my thing. I miss the gears and the pinions. I miss the technique.
Yeah. I think, as you know, finally even UNESCO got to the point of officially protecting, you know, the art of watchmaking as a patrimony of human beings.
Yeah, indeed.
I think we are in love with mechanical watchmakers because they are one of the maximum expressions of human skills. So I agree, you know, giving a digital kind of artificial value or representation doesn't quite work in the same way. It's like for people like you and I don't know, but when you like the guitars loud and crisp and sharp, and then there is a synthesizer coming in the picture, it's not the same thing. It's all
exactly that. I had that talk long time ago, many times.
Yeah.
And it was always, you know, talking about the synthesizer when that came into the picture, you know.
Yeah. There is. Although I, for those that have not read the article from King Flum and his Screw Down blog, there is a very good point. When NFT may become with additional, very real value that can be attached to the fact of being an owner of the watch itself. So if it has a functional kind of usage, then it may be justified. But it's still early days, isn't it?
Yes. I'm going to be polite and leave it at that.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Tell me something, Frank. Big question. How much of the success of independent watchmaking is due to the fact that Patek Philippe decided to unilaterally phase out the Nautilus? Can we divide the success of independent watchmaking in two categories? One is the integrated bracelet sport chic category, and the second one is independent watchmaking as such.
Yeah, good question. Well, I think one thing is definitely adding to this. I mean, it is you need a hefty budget for many of the independents that are going that are being extremely popular these days. And not everyone has that budget. But I do think that during the confinement, especially the early confinement, many people have read a lot about indie watchmaking and have read a lot about the difference of people making genuine, authentic products and not mass products with a big layer of marketing on top. And I think that is something that that has been seen and heard and found by many people, and apparently they appreciate that. So that's I can imagine that it's the kind of clients who go for the Patek Nautilus or even more complicated Pateks as well.
Yeah, no,
which they now can't buy.
Yeah, we officially retail over 60 brands at the limited edition in the world of independent watchmakers. And it's not because we are hoarders, but it's because we like to give the widest perspective that we can possibly give. And we've seen with brands like Czapek, we've seen with brands like Laurent Ferrier, but even with Parmigiani recently, and I know what's happening at Girard-Perregaux, where also they have a clear legacy in that price, product category. And yes, it is incredible what's happening. The number of people that have decided to leave that bandwagon and jump on the independence to satisfy that need that they had, and and the taste that they had for this particular segment. Where is it gonna go? Because I can tell you, on Laurent Ferrier, we're looking at, I don't know, to 2025, 2026, to be on a waiting list for the new sports auto. And we've been around a long time, and Nautilus, Royal Oak, Laureato have been around for ages, so they're not strictly speaking a new thing, but it's becoming a big ramp, a big launcher for a number of other brands that are capable to offer something there.
Yeah, it's good enough possibilities, I would say, and well, happy to see that that proper artisanal watchmaking is at least seen and appreciated, because before many people hardly saw the difference between a micro rotor movement from Patek or the one I just showed, the Laurent Ferrier. I mean,
feel free to show the watch that you're wearing, because we don't normally do a wrist check, but it's always brilliant. Yeah.
So that's I can remember that a friend of mine who owns many Pateks, including super complicated Pateks, he was not convinced that the price point of a Laurent Ferrier micro rotor, and I tried to explain him everything. It took him until he borrowed my watch for a little while and photographed it with the macro lens, and took a big loop, and he spent 2-3 weeks studying the watch. And at that time, he slowly realized that there was better finishing than Patek. And well, he was only a collector of modern Patek and not necessarily of the vintage Patek, when finishing was probably even much better than after the industrialization of the 80s. But still, so even quite experienced collectors sometimes see the retailer as their main source of information, and the retailer usually has no interest in explaining that a small brand from Geneva named Laurent Ferrier might have a much better finished movement than a Patek micro rotor movement. So it's also where you get the information, and I think that the early confinement was a very good moment for many people to dig in.
Yeah,
and that
wasn't
really has happened.
And there wasn't a platform 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like this one, where you just turn on your mobile phone and without any particularly glittery setup, you just talk about the stuff, and you just project your truth out there for people to judge and to see if they find themselves in what you are, the story that you're telling. When I started in the early 2000s, the watchmaking world was all based on advertising, and advertising is a manufacturer story, by definition, if you like. Whereas now these brands have become a bit the ambassadors of, shall we call it, genuine marketing, without wanting to make any of these watchmakers saints, but it's the real deal, it's the real story, and it comes out without any frills in a way, no?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's they don't even have the budget to hire a marketeer often, or to have someone handle the communications. It's a watchmaker or 2 or 3, and that's it. They make watches, and they're bloody good at it sometimes. Yeah. So it's and I'm happy that more and more people are aware of this group and appreciate it in such way that they're also prepared to spend their budgets buying their watches.
For my experience, you're a free media, we are a free, private company as well, so we kind of feel free to express our opinions for what we're really convinced our opinions are. we often say in regards to value, because value comes into the picture, you know, obviously we always often talking about, you know, sizable amounts of money to feed a passion like this. And there is something that Johnny, our editor as well, agrees with, and we have discussed often, is that in independent watchmaking, arguably the value may even, the inner value may be very close to the retail that you're actually paying for a watch, even more so, because it's less, obviously, I come from a big group initially, and there is less gap between the retail price and what actually the watch costs. Is that something you would accept?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that assessment. Yeah. It's weird, but I said, you know, I'm so happy that now finally enough people dug in and are appreciating proper watchmaking and proper finishing, and that is something that has been in a very small niche corner for way too long, and I'm happy to see it come out and play the role that they I think totally deserve.
And from your point of view, Frank, in your own collection, how do you operate? You said before that you want to be clever, and you have, obviously, your taste develops in time. And how are you curating your collection in general? Do you have a master plan, or you're more instinctive? You're more instinctive and like impulse kind of driven.
I'm very good in buying. I'm extremely bad in selling. So that's immediately my problem. When there's a budget, it will be spent, and then, you know, it's gone. But to sell watches, to raise a budget, sometimes you need to sell watches, and I'm really not good at that. So no, there's not one particular master plan, and my collection is extremely eclectic. I own a bunch of old Hoyers and Tag Heuers. I own a bunch of IWCs. I own a bunch of Omegas, and they're all super dear to me. But on the other hand, I own quite a few indies as well, and they're also very dear to me. And I couldn't choose. You know, it's not like let me ditch all the IWCs and Tag Heuers and Omegas because they're all from big groups. No. I don't want to lose those watches, you know. So it remains quite. Oh, wait, there goes the light again. Sorry. It remains for me to see what I like and when I like something, and when there's a budget, and it's you know, I buy it, and when it really doesn't get any love or wrist time, then it should go again. But that remains a difficulty.
And how do you assess the value of a piece you like to acquire or you like to sell? And my question just leads to another point, that we are living in a market that is fairly dominated by what is happening on auctions as well, in a good and in a bad way. So how if we're always trying to give the right tip, you know, to collectors that take the time to follow and to enjoy our contents. How do you operate in that respect? Do you look at auctions? What do you make of them? How, you know?
Honestly, I don't look at the auctions. It's the entire world of auctions, and especially those high fetching, you know, those the price watches. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. It's not my thing. I prefer to look for maybe something slightly more obscure. You know, for instance, a little while ago, I picked up this old Jaeger Ultra Master Perpetual. I could get it for less than 10K. To me, that's relatively a bargain. And I've always loved this watch. But now being able to pick it up for this price makes it even better. You know, at an auction, it would probably be the last piece of the auction with zero attention, and they mainly focus all their attention on the on the big names for which they, you know, the ones that they really think are going through the roof. And to me, it's becoming a bit of a show.
Yeah, yeah. And
I wish for a little bit more normality in that, and a little bit less, hey, you broke another record, you know, and they go all the time like this. It will be record breaking. It will always go about the same watches. So it's getting a little bit boring.
Do you see an agenda? Do you see an agenda behind on certain brands when all of a sudden the world goes absolutely mental for no apparent reason at all?
I don't know. Really, of course, you hear people talk about agendas and that it's a big game. But you know, it's the world that at Monochrome we stay pretty far away from. We don't cover auctions or hardly cover auctions, and when we cover auctions, we recently did one at the end of last year. But it was mainly because there were so many independent watchmaking pieces in that auction. But for the rest, you know.
We have one. I have another couple of questions for you. I'm enjoying this very much, Frank. I hope you have a few more minutes to devote to this. Once again, this is Pietro from the limited edition, and I'm hosting today this nice conversation with Frank, founder of Monochrome Watches. I always say definitely one of our top watch blogs that I've been following for forever, really, and one that I've always appreciated for the freedom of expression and the fact of how much you've been digging throughout the years, which has been really credit to you. There is a little question from our editor, actually, the Irish watch guy, Aka Johnny. AKA Johnny, saying, will the bubble burst? I don't know which bubble Johnny is referring to.
Well, good question. I think everyone is wondering whether a certain bubble is going to burst. Whether should I sell my Royal Oak AP, my Royal Oak Jumbo now, or should I hold on to it? No clue. If I have a crystal ball, I won't tell you. I will sell my watches, and when I sell, you should sell them too. No, but this is it's unpredictable. But I must admit that some prices are going completely berserk.
Absolutely. I totally agree, and I think there will be some kind of normalization at one point. Because especially the recent launches that we've seen were incredible. One was yours as well. Your congratulations on the monochrome edition of the Chapek Antarctica, which was a huge success as well. And I'm sure you were shocked probably with what you've seen as well, no? Because being not a retailer, I think you went there with a brave courage and enthusiasm, and you must have been absolutely overwhelmed.
At first I was scared, very scared that we were not going to sell. But when we opened for people to register their interest, it all went so fast. It was completely bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a moment that that the joy hits the table in a very positive way. But it was strange. But well, good enough to repeat it. So we're working on a few more together with a few very nice brands.
Nice one. Is there something that you consider necessary for independent watchmaking to keep thriving and to keep having that creativity that is necessary, really, to justify altogether independent watchmaking? How is independence so crucial to be able to do that, for brand to be able to do that, for watchmakers and for medias as well? What is the value of independence in our world today, in your opinion?
To make your own choices. And I think that being said, that's the only thing. There's no one else who can tell me what we should do with monochrome, or for you with the limited edition, of course. Doesn't mean we close our eyes for everything around, but there's only one person deciding, and you know that gives quite a good feeling. I think the independence to make your own choices is by far the best. And if I would project something like that, for instance, on a watch brand, you know, I can't imagine that that Urwerk would have been a watch brand by now if they weren't self-started independents, or even Max Busser with his, despite the history that he had with what was it? Pietro, help me. Max Busser started with the Opus series. Harry Winston. Sorry,
Harry Winston.
Yeah.
I was thinking, because I first discovered Max Busser when I was a Girard-Perregaux, and he was working. Girard-Perregaux were making some of the first calibers for BNF for the LM2 at the time. And I didn't even know that independent watchmaking was a thing. But yes, of course, Harry Winston and the Opus Saga, which is now, how can I say, the Bible to understand independent watchmaking in a way?
Sort of. Yeah. It's a good way to say it. Yeah. You know, Max Busser had a super rare opportunity with Harry Winston, but for the rest, you know, I can't imagine. Think of, for instance, the limited edition that you recently did together with Armin from Horophile. And with Ophion from Spain. That brand would have never existed if they were within a group, you know. Yeah. Then the guys of Ophion shouldn't have been passionate watch lovers with enough entrepreneur in themselves, but they should have had a business school with zero knowledge of watches, but with very good skills to sell something to the director. That's a different ball game, you know. Here you have two guys who are who have a proper entrepreneurial mood, and they go for it, and they know what they want because they're crazy passionate about watches, and
young, and very young as well. So without that background, you know, somebody like Max could have had in previous years, for example. I'm not calling Max older. I'm not calling Max.
Yeah, well, you can, I think. Sorry, Max. But you know, they make choices also for types of finishing, types of the case they do together with Garrick. I mean, this is, you know, within a group, no one would have allowed it, no one would have approved it, or even thought of it. These guys are young independent guys, or take for instance Baltic, what they are doing. You know, it's a very pleasant entry level price point. Same goes for Ophion, still pretty affordable, but what they do, they deliver a lot of value for the money that they ask, and I love it what they do.
That was my next and last question. Unless you guys want to ask something, feel free now, and sorry if I missed some of your questions before. How important, so at the limited edition, you know, it's quite pleasant. Like last week we sold an Alchemists, you know, and it was quite pleasant to be able to finalize a sale like that to one single human being. You know, pretty straightforward to manage. You have one issue to deal with, and the pleasure to interact with one single person. But we understood a long time ago that promoting affordable independent watchmaking, and today I'm wearing an orange or Orage tourbillon. Orage tourbillon today. Yeah. And how important it is for what we discussed before, first to scout these new names, and secondly, to give collectors the opportunity to talk about a reasonable price point, to have an access to an art, which is a form of art, which is independent watchmaking. Because then, like it happened to you, it happened to me, then you can build up, and God knows, you know, where you can get with your collection.
Yeah,
but exactly. How crucial this is.
It's fundamental. I mean, you need to be able to get into the game and to enjoy it. And when you enjoy it, you meet other people who also enjoy it, and you talk with them, and you share your passion, you share your views and your ideas, and you know, this is just the best, actually. I can remember a long time ago, I was traveling sometimes quite far to to meet other collectors. But now, you know, even on I open Instagram and I have a few chat messages from many people who are also into watches. So, you know, now it's easy to discuss with other people, but back in the day when I started, it was nearly impossible. So it's cool. I love all the different kind of medias and the easy ways to get in touch with people and to be in touch both with brands, but also with independents. And it makes a whole of a difference whether you're talking to an end client, you know, someone who is a collector, or someone who built his own brands, or a sales representative. You know, those are so different, and I prefer to have that direct contact. That makes it much more fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, there is a question or a comment, quite a few actually. There are huge congratulations from Justin, our friend in Hong Kong. Big fan of monochrome. He loves what you're doing. We had a few like that. We have Look at Watch. Independent watchmaking was an escape from the drama of the big brands. However, it is also getting so hard to get. Yeah, we discussed this before. So this interview will be on our Instagram live channel, so you can go and rewind that. But yeah, Frank, we did say, you know, it's not an easy game. Yeah, we love independent watchmaking, but you can't get to a Nirvana gig just on demand. You know, it's one of those.
No. Like my fellow countrymen, the Kronevelds, they announced a few months ago that stop ordering Kroneveld watches. We're full for the coming 3 years, and we can't handle it anymore. Yeah. So and they're not alone, of course. You know, with seeing the Bethune being now partially owned by the Watchbox, the prices of the Bethune were skyrocketing already. Demand for the new Bethune pieces are, you know, it's going so well in that scene. Yeah. And then you also realize that this level of high-end horology, super independent, super creative watchmaking, I think we need more. Maybe I'm greedy, but I'd love for more brands to pop up with either their take on very classic watches with incredibly beautiful finishing, or brilliant complications like Urwerk or Max Büsser are displaying, or even one that you hardly see these days, Hautlence. I still have a very big affection for that brand. So yeah, let more people get up and from their chair and become a watchmaker and do something like that.
With Johnny, we believe that this period in time will be remembered one day as the new wave of the independent watchmaking, because in the 20 years I've been in the market, I've never seen such a spring of creativity and a buzz to what is happening at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is to me, you know, it's something that I genuinely enjoy a lot. But for instance, think of Garrick, you know, the English watch brand. They do deliver so much value for the money they ask. Little money in my book, actually. Absolutely. And they're so nice, and everything is custom made. You know, you can chat with the guy who's making your watch, and you can say, "Oh, could you maybe do this or that?" And where do you get that level of personalization and that level of service, that level of attention, and being in touch with the guy who's actually making your watch? You know, there is so much added value that can't be matched by any marketing language.
Absolutely. And yes, Everin, we're looking at the questions. You're saying that you were trying to get a bespoke timepiece from a watchmaker and you couldn't get it. Like Frank and I are saying, these artists are now completely overwhelmed with demand, and they spend the whole day producing. So if you need help with that, there are people like, you know, there's the limited edition here that can kind of help, you know, in creating those bridges. So let us know, you know, which watchmaker you were talking about. And then yeah, lots of compliments. It is hard to make a micro brand. It is, and it is scary as well, because one last element, Frank. Today, competition is fierce, even in the world of independence. I mean, there are so many cool stuff, as you said. We have Rich from Studio Underdog here connected. Is watching this. I can see. Yeah, plenty of interesting makers at the moment. We'll see where we're going.
Absolutely, I'm curious, but then again, you know, there's all kind of levels of creativity to be found in the world of watchmaking. You can either buy a generic movement, a generic case, and have your own dial designed, or you can act a little bit more creative, like for instance Ophion. These guys are also not making their entire movement or their case or their dial, but they do. There's so much more creativity there. And of course you can go a few miles further, but that means you're a proper watchmaker and you spend a lot of time with a piece of wood, you know, beveling a bridge or anything, and that's going to take time, and thus it will be a much more expensive watch. So in all price brackets you can find something from independence, as long as there's enough people standing up who say, I'm going to start a watch brand. It has been my dream or whatever. Do it, go for it. It's, I think there's yes, there's competition, but on the other hand, there are not enough.
Yeah, definitely in comparison to what the demand is today. We may have created a monster, Frank. You started it, and we put an additional layer, and yeah, we'll see how things will pan out. Frank, listen, this has been a great pleasure. I owe our friend Fahim, King Flume, to spell properly the name of his blog, which is Crew Down Crown. A very independent voice on the net, on the things about collecting watches. So if you're interested in the topic, go there and you'll surely enjoy. But Frank, thank you so much for
Thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and it feels like we should do this again, definitely, I think, in the future.
Always open for that. But first, I think we're going to meet in Geneva for Watches and Wonders.
Absolutely.
See you there.
I think everything being well, everything is set for that. Absolutely. It'll be a great pleasure. Thank you, Frank. You take care. And are you bringing the guitar to Geneva? No, you know.
No, we're not bringing back the band.
There's no time. There's no time.
Sorry.
Different.
I'll bring the camera and maybe a microphone, but that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Frank. You take care, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Bye, Pietro. Thank you. Ciao.
Cheers. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.